Good morning, friends. Today we are going to learn poem Love by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. S.T. Coleridge is one of the important poets of Romantic period. He was very close friend of William Wordsworth, and their influence on one another was most significant in that way and productive in that way. Coleridge was the dreamer actually and a profound scholar who created so many important notable poems like Kubla Khan, Christabel, The Rime of an Ancient Mariner. He was famous critic, poet, philosopher, uh, and especially he was a person who added something new to the history of poetry. So in this work, he appreciated that emotion of love, celebrated the emotion of the love. In 1800, S.T. Coleridge moved to the Lake District with his friend William Wordsworth, where he met the would-be sister-in-law Sarah Hutchinson of this William Wordsworth, and Coleridge found himself in love with her. Coleridge's marriage was failure, unsuccessful. So in that way, he was not happy and he was addict of opium. We can see the impression of his addiction in his poems, which created that dreamy scenes all over. So in An Ancient Mariner, Kubla Khan, we do have such type of impression of his that addiction. So in this poem also we have description of landscape, which is one of the qualities of romanticism. Love, it is intense feeling of affection towards somebody. Here, poet describes his love towards Genevieve. And Genevieve, as we know, is parallel character created by poet to that Sarah Hutchinson. Genevieve is the imaginary beloved of poet. So he celebrates his love for Genevieve in this story and how he tries to get her love. All thoughts, all passions, all delights, whatever stirs this mortal frame, all are but ministers of love and feed his sacred flame. This opening stanza proves the importance of love in human life. According to the poet, all our thoughts, all our emotions and passions, all our happiness, whatever that comes into our mind or that creates some momentum in human body. States means momentum, creating some movement in this mortal frame, human body. All are ministers of love according to the poet, means all these things are servants of this love or subordinates of this love. And all these things, they satisfy the need of love, or they feed this sacred or pure or immortal flame of love. His means loves. So in this way, love is personified in this opening stanza of the poem. Often in my waking dreams do I live over again that happy hour, when midway on the mount I lay beside the ruined tower. So here from that poem begins. This dreamy nature of poet he feels so many times in his life. While he is awake, he has habit to see dreams, and this is the dream so many times that comes to him. Of means often. In his waking dreams, he lives that life again and again, the life that he experienced, that time he calls as happy hour. In this dream, he finds himself doing going towards some mountain and that traveling. While going towards that hilly area, he takes shelter in the middle of the path when midway on the mount. I lay means he relaxed midway on the mountain, and there he took shelter. besides the ruined tower. So in this way, this is how you can compare this stanza with his life journey. When he met this Sarah Hutchinson, he was in means that midway of his life tour, you may say. See here in his dream, this scene, beautiful romantic scene, is created. After knowing that landscape he described, you can know something about that beauty of nature at that moment he enjoyed. When he was there beside the ruined tower, that was the night time. So he expressed through this third stanza, the moonshine stealing over the scene had blended with the lights of eve, and she was there, my hope, my joy, my own dear Genevieve. So in that moonlight or in that night time, everywhere that impression of moonlight was there. Moonshine was defeating other things. Stealing over the scene means defeating other things. And that moonshine had blended means mixed with the lights of eve. Eve means evening. So there was mixing of moonlight and twilight, that evening light, and of course that was to twilight. And she was there, my hope, my joy, my own dear Genevieve. So for the first time there is that introduction of Genevieve in the poem. According to the poet, she was his own dear Genevieve, and she was hope and delight or joy, happiness for him. She was there. In the fourth stanza, she leaned against the armed man, the statue of the armed knight. She stood and listened to my lay amid the lingering light. So Genevieve now is standing before poet in his dream. And in that she took support of one armed man. That is actually not man, but that is statue of the man. So that was that armed knight, K-N-I-G-H-T, knight means Sardar. So she took support of that statue and she stands before poet. She stood and listened to my lay. What she was doing, she was listening to the song. Lay means song, or that poem sung with that company of lyre or musical instrument. Poet was singing that song before her amid the lingering light. So in that way there was light, moonlight, and that was spread there, and of course she is there before poet. Few sorrows hath she of her own, my hope, my joy, my Genevieve. She loves me best whenever I sing the songs that make her grieve. So here you have that word few, a few and few. There is difference in meaning. When you have a few means that means some, but if you don't have that article here you don't have that article so here few is there. Few means not more. So some sorrows were there, but not more, you may say, not more sorrows were there of her own. So she was in that way less sorrowful, very means that without sorrow, or some little sorrow was there. My hope, my joy, my Genevieve. So she was living that way the life of her own. She loves me best whenever I sing the songs that make her grieve. So she by nature is good woman. She has sympathy towards another's sorrow. So when that poet sings some sorrowful song, she becomes happy, or she feels that sympathy towards that fellow suffering person in that poem or song. So in this way we can say that good nature of Genevieve is seen through this stanza. Though she has not more sorrows of her own, she has sympathy for another sorrow, and she listens that music and song with that sympathy. I played a soft and doleful air. I sang an old and moving story, an old rude song that suited well that ruin wild and hoary. So now poet tells something about song. Before this stanza, he narrated something about that Genevieve, how she appears before him, how she stands, how she is, how her mental condition is, and after that he tells that nature of his song. He played or he started singing that song that is soft one, but that is sad one, sad song, and he sang an old and moving story through that song. An old rude song means simple, very rustic one of common human beings, but that is very sad one, sorrowful one, that suited well, that ruined wild Ori. So that means he was there besides that ruined tower and that statue of the night. That's why the song is suitable to that particular means landscape and situation. So that is how he says that is suited to that situation well. And he started telling the sorrowful story to that Genevieve. What is the purpose of telling the story through the song? See, that the purpose of telling the story through the song is to tell that Genevieve, the beloved of poet, about sad ending of love when that beloved doesn't accept love. What is the that effect of that on that lover? So in this way, he wants to indirectly convey his own love to Genevieve. She listened with a fleeting blush, with downcast eyes and modest grace, for well she knew I could not choose but gaze upon her face. See, here we can see that Genevieve feels some embarrassment, and due to that shy, she cannot look into the face of poet. Direct eye to eye contact is not there. She just listens, and that passing blush is there on her face. She is looking towards ground, and there is that grace, modest grace, gentle grace is there. Because for well she knew, for means because well she knew that I could not choose but gaze upon her face. She knew that due to love I have for her, I I was constantly gazing towards her face or looking, staring towards her face, and she wants to avoid her eye to eye contact. That's why she looked towards ground. So in this way, that feminist with the feministic attitude, if you want to interpret this stanza, you can say in that period of romanticism also, women were supposed to show their shy nature in such situations. And even that facial expressions and body language that is very suggestive and significant, we can correlate with. So coming to the next stanza, I told her of the knight that wore upon his shield a burning brand, that for 10 long years he wooed the lady of the land. So here from the story begins. In his song, poet started telling the story of knight, Knigst, and that knight was wearing, or means past tense of wear, to dress, upon his shield, upon his dressing of army man, a burning brand. So he was very bold and brave in that way, having that brand on his shield, and that for the 10 long years he wooed the lady of the land, and for 10 years he persuaded the lady to marry him, and for that he suffered a lot. And the lady of the land is cruel in that way. She denied his love. So here we can see that the cruelty of beloved makes that lover mad. So let's stop here. We'll see remaining part in the next lecture. So see, now we can see that in this poem there is turning point, and in the next lecture definitely we'll be dealing with that. Let us stop here. In the